Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Casting Colosseum number 6. We just saw an exciting match between the Motivation and Nemelix, where in Game 3, Motivation was able to take that and continue his domination in the Casting Colosseum. But we still have more for you tonight, and our next matchup is going to be a doozy. It's going to be Bosmopar versus Daethstar. Let's take a look at Bosmopar's player card. He hails from Anaheim, California. He has 15 years of TCG experience. He's won a sealed IQ top 8, or been in the sealed IQ top 8, 5 Shards weekly winner, 3rd place in the 5 Shards weekly series finale. He likes to consider himself a well-rounded player, and he can play any deck and any format. If you're not already following Bosmopar on Twitch, I suggest you head over to twitch.tv/Bosmopar. Give him a follow. He will definitely entertain you in all things Hex. Let's take a look at the deck he is piloting tonight. It is none other than Jank Umbrant. That's right, Jank Umbrant. And this deck has a long list of cards, so let's go ahead and get started. Troops in this deck consist of 2 Royal Valkyr, 4 Hero of Adamant, 4 Houndmaster of Artavas, 4 Lord Adam the Powerful, 4 Jankbot, 4 Azurfate Sorceress, 4 Vanguard of Gwaine, 2 Royal Cutblood, 2 Protectorate Clergyman, 4 Phoenix Guard Trainer, 4 Lord Alexander the Courageous, 2 Kraken Guard Sea Priest, 2 Jags the Blade Master, 4 Cerulean Mentalist, 4 Buccaneer, 4 Royal Herald, 4 Phoenix Guard Messenger, 4 Lord Benjamin the Wise, and 4 Cerulean Mirror Knight. As far as actions, constants, and everything in between, Bosmopar is running 2 Mass Polymorph Dingler, 4 Mastery of Time, 2 Solitary Exile, 2 Bless in the Fallen, 2 Pride's Fall, 4 Repel, 2 Martyr, 2 Soul Marble, and 4 Time Ripples, rounding out his resource pool of Ruby, Diamond, and Sapphire, playing 4 Shard of Conquest, 4 Shard of Purpose, and 4 Shard of Innovation. His champion is none other than Rutherford Banks with a starting health of 23, requires double diamond threshold, 7 charges, and you can put target troop from your crypt into play.
Well, thank you for that, Snake. I want to say 7 minutes ago, we started looking at this deck. It's a huge deck, and that reason is because of Jankbot. This deck is focused on this single card and supporting it and making it work. Jankbot is an example of Hex and its deck restrictions. There are a couple of cards that require certain things to be included in the deck to make them run. Jankbot is one of these. To play Jankbot, you need 150 cards in Constructed, at least 150 cards. If you can do that, you can play Jankbot. Otherwise, it is a no-go. So why would anybody play a deck that is twice as large as the normal 60 card requirement? Well, Jankbot happens to be a very special robot. For 4 resources, you get a 5/6, and every time that Jankbot swings in, you get to play 3 things from your deck for free. So it is an incredibly powerful troop, way above curve, and everything else is built to support that particular troop. The rest of the deck is focused on a key combo between Lord Alexander the Courageous, Lord Benjamin the Wise, and Lord Adam the Powerful. If Bosmopar manages to get all 3 of these troops out, he will be able to create the Triumvirate, a super powerful troop that whenever it attacks, gains health, draws cards, and deals damage to everything on the board.
Jank Umbrant was the deck that Bosmopar played last Friday. And let's take a look at his opponent, who is Daethstar. He hails from London, Ontario, Canada. He is 47 years old. He enjoys playing mid-range aggro. Tournament history, he's a top 4 in the Diamond Cup. He's also a Florida State champion in Constructed and has top 8 Pro Tour Constructed experience. Funny fact, he was a sous chef, a tournament organizer for Magic the Gathering and Upper Deck, and once owned the Power 9. Let's take a look at the deck that Daethstar is piloting tonight. It's called Vamps. Troops in this deck consist of 4 Vampire King, 4 Vampire Princess, 3 Fenteo the Brood Priest, 4 Cerulean Mentalist, 3 Giant Corpsefly, and 2 Minion of Yazakan. Rounding out the rest of his deck, the actions are 3 Extinction, 4 Kill, 3 Arcane Shield, 3 Verdict of the Ancient Kings, and 4 Arcane Focus. And rounding out his resource pool are 2 Shard of Cunning. He is playing Benoshi the Ruthless with starting health of 18, requires a blood threshold and 3 champion charges. Sacrifice a troop, another target troop you control gets +2/+2.
So Vamps is a really interesting deck, much like the Blood Banks that TM played, the Motivation played before. We're looking at very powerful troops that come down on the board and must be dealt with. Otherwise, Daethstar is going to win the game. We're talking the Vampire King, Vampire Princess, and Fenteo. This is the trifecta for anything blood. But unlike the Motivations deck, who focuses on Diamond as a support shard, instead we have Sapphire, and that allows Daethstar to be a little bit more defensive than the Motivations version. Using cards like Arcane Shield and Verdict of the Ancient Kings, he is able to make sure that if he gets a Vampire King on the board, it'll stay on the board. It cannot be removed through conventional forms of removal if he gives it Spell Shield, and Verdict will protect the board from sweepers like Extinction.
So let's head on down to the tournament floor where we have this matchup: Bosmopar versus Daethstar, Jank Umvrent versus Vamps. This is going to be an exciting match. What do you look for in this matchup to win, Dino?
I think we're going to see major troops coming out right around turn 3 or turn 4, and it's going to be a race to see who gets their major combo pieces, their big effective troops out first and can race to victory.
Bosmopar with the coin toss win will go first. We'll take a look at opening hands for both players. For Bosmopar, it looks like he is going to mulligan down to 6, down to 5 with a Ruby Shard, Sapphire Shard, Mastery of Time, Blessing of the Fallen, and Jankbot in hand. Opening hand for Daethstar is a Blood Shard, a Sapphire Shard, Kill, Verdict of the Ancient Kings, a Vampire Princess, Cerulean Mirror Knight, and Arcane Focus.
Strong hand there for Bosmopar. Anytime you start out with a Jankbot is a good day indeed.
Blood Shard is played for Daethstar.
On the flip side, though, Daethstar has a number of sweet pickups, including that Cerulean Mirror Knight. Will allow him to inspire all troops that he plays after that Mirror Knight with when this dies, draw a card. And card advantage is the fuel that many players use to destroy their opponents.
So it looks like the players are talking with another. Maybe Daethstar thinks he might have loaded the wrong deck.
Oh, dear.
That could be a problem. That could be a problem. We're going to shift over to Bosmopar. His draw is a Sapphire Shard. Plays a Ruby Shard, now at 2 resources, single Ruby, single Sapphire threshold, 1 resource away from Jankbot.
Might be worth checking in with our tournament organizer, Alucard, to figure out how we want to handle a improper deck.
Yeah, I think at this point right now, we'll probably just proceed with what we have going on, but we'll see what our tournament director on the floor has to say. These decks were preloaded, so I don't know if there's going to be any issues, but we'll see. We'll keep you updated as we continue.
So looking at both of these hands, I have to say that Bosmopar's in a pretty good spot. There's no removal that can handle the Jankbot in Daethstar's hand. So if Bosmopar can get Jankbot down and start swinging, it could be all the momentum he needs to overcome his 5-card starting hand. On the flip side, Daethstar does have some very strong tech, a Arcane Focus, as well as a Cerulean Mirror Knight can generate an awful lot of card advantage. He's already sitting at a full hand versus Bosmopar's 4. That is an awful lot of gas that Bosmopar is going to have to deal with.
So we're going to shift over to Daethstar. His draw is a Giant Corpse Fly. We'll play out a Sapphire Shard, and we see a Cerulean Mirror Knight played for Daethstar.
So these next couple of turns are going to be crucial. Will Bosmopar find his 4th shard?
Phoenix Guard Messenger is the draw. We'll play a resource. Phoenix Guard Messenger now on the field for Bosmopar. He'll pass. We go over to Daethstar. His draw is a Zentos Inquisitor. We see him play Arcane Focus, hopefully trying to find a resource. He does. It is a Blood Shard. We'll play it now at 2 open resources.
Pulling a resource was really critical for Daethstar there. He needs to stay on curve, get his threats out as fast as possible, because if Bosmopar beats him, there's going to be a huge deficit to overcome.
So it looks like Daethstar is going to pass the turn over to Bosmopar, probably hoping to draw resources, finds a Houndmaster of Artivast, decides not to swing in, and will shift over to Daethstar. His draw is a second Vampire Princess.
This is it. That might just be exactly what Daethstar needs. With a 2 Vampire Princesses, Bosmopar has 2 actions in hand. That's a 50-50 chance that he'll lose something.
Giant Corpse Fly is played for Daethstar. Houndmaster of Artivast will go to the crypt. We see attack from Daethstar. Doesn't want to swing in. Will end the turn. Go over to Bosmopar. Draw for him is a Hero of Adamant. Stuck on 3 resources. Probably would love to find another one to get Jankbot online. He'll have to pass a turn over to Daethstar. His draw is a Sapphire Shard, now at 4 resources. Double Blood, double Sapphire Threshold. Vampire King is played for Daethstar.
One of the great weaknesses of Rutherford Banks' Jank deck is that it's so variable. You're not likely to draw into your curve as often as you would like.
Attack from Daethstar. We see the Cerulean Mirror Knight and the Giant Corpse Fly. Blocks with the Phoenix Guard Messenger. Draw for Bosmopar as a Vanguard of Gawain. As we shift over to Bosmopar, his draw is a Jags the Blade Master. He'll be able to play that and nothing else. And we'll pass over to Daethstar. His draw is a Blood Shard. That'll now put him at 5 resources.
That has to be heartbreaking. Vampire King now has a chance to hit a Jankbot. If a Jankbot is revealed, that'll be stolen and turned into a 2/2 flying vampire.
Attack from Vampire King reveals Blessing the Fallen. So no card taken, no troop taken. Bosmopar at 19 health. And we might see the Vampire Princess, and we do. Vampire Princess is played. So now a attack from both will be able to target not only troops, but actions.
Oh, that's got to be a load off of Bosmopar's mind. He's got another chance.
Lord Benjamin the Wise is the draw for Bosmopar. Plays that out, and we see Jag swinging in during the attack for Bosmopar. This is 3 damage. Daethstar electing to let it go through will go down to 18 health.
At some point, you don't care about damage when you have that much life drain on the board.
Draw for Daethstar is a Sapphire Shard. Now it's 6 resources.
Likely going to see Daethstar increasing his board presence, capitalizing on the fact that Bosmopar is down a couple of resources.
Zentos Inquisitor is the play for Daethstar. It's going to target Lord Benjamin the Wise. It is now at -2 attack. Looks like sacrificing the Zentos Inquisitor with his champion power. That is now a 4/5 Vampire Princess attack with the Vampire King and Princess. That would be 7 damage incoming, blocked with Lord Benjamin. But Daethstar is going to gain some health, and Jankbot is hit.
But with the Vampire Princess, so now Daethstar knows there's a Jankbot, but he also doesn't get to steal it.
Go over to Bosmopar. Draw is a Phoenix Guard trainer, but no defense against the Vampire King or Vampire Princess. Jags will swing in. This will be 3 damage. Daethstar sitting comfortably after that attack with 22 health.
You'll notice that Daethstar is always holding open 2 resources, and that's very intentional. He wants that Arcane, Shield, or the Verdict up at all times to protect his superior board.
Draw 4. Daethstar is another Vampire Princess attack. 7 damage brings Bosmopar down to 8. Mastery of Time is revealed. And a troop. Oh, this is bad business for Bosmopar.
Yeah, it's lethal next turn. He needs to find some way to reduce Daethstar's board, or he is not going to be long for this game.
Second Vampire Princess is played for Daethstar. Vampiric Kiss will take care of the Phoenix Guard trainer. And that was quite a turn for Daethstar as we go over to Bosmopar, who draws a resource, a Shard of Purpose. Unfortunately, too late to make a difference for Bosmopar.
Yeah, it was close, but in the end, not enough.
Vanguard of Gawain will join the field for Bosmopar, swinging in with Jags, 3 damage to Daethstar's 31 health. So that'll take him to 28. 20 health separating Bosmopar and Daethstar.
It's kind of daunting, isn't it? It's the power of those bloodsuckers. They get into you, they steal your cards, take away your card advantage, and at the end of the day, well, they carry many decks to victory.
So a blood shard played for Daethstar, and with everything he has on the field in the air is coming at Bosmopar. Nothing he can do. And Daethstar is going to take game one against Bosmopar in this second match of the Casting Colosseum. Let's take a look at reserves for both players. Daethstar playing 3 Zentos Inquisitors, 2 Monsoon Shogun of the Windigen, 3 Subtle Strikers, 4 Inquisition, and 3 The Ancestors Chosen. What are some options for Daethstar?
I happen to like Inquisition and or perhaps Monsoon. Well, I don't know about Monsoon now that I think about it. Inquisition I like, particularly because we saw in this last game, Jankbot decks are variable. If you can hit key cards, they're not likely to draw into those cards again. It's 150 cards they have to go through. So if you can get rid of 1 or 2 big threats, they're not likely to pull them again. On the flip side, Monsoon, I'm edgy about. We haven't seen a whole bunch of removal in Bosmopar's deck, but it does have some. And Monsoon is great protection for your key drops.
Yeah, so there is no reserves for Bosmopar in the Jank Umbran deck. And you're right about Inquisition. I mean, if you take away one of those key cards that can form Triumvirate, you take away a Jankbot, Inquisition can be pretty critical for Daethstar. So as both players are going to be saving their deck after reserves, we'll go into game number 2. Bosmopar really kind of fell behind when he was sitting on 3 resources and didn't draw a resource until the end. And even when he did, it was a dual shard, and it really wasn't much help to him, Dino.
Well, you have to think about how often normal decks will have difficulty with their resources. It'll happen. That's why we build our decks so carefully to have a curve, a small number of low drops, increasing up until the middle. So around 3 or 4, you have your most drops, and then tailing off your 5, 6, 7 plus drops. You do this so that over time, you will likely going to be able to play powerful things and have the resources every single turn to play those powerful things. In a Jankbot deck, you have double the number of cards that you need to sift through. So if you miss a resource drop, or conversely get too many, get flooded out, that hits you so much harder than it does in a smaller 60-card deck. It's all about consistency.
So let's go on to game number 2. We have Daethstar leading this match 1-0 over Bosmopar in his Jank Umbran deck. Looks like he's going to mulligan down to 6, opening hand for Bosmopar. Double Sapphire Shard, Shard of Purpose, Jankbot, Cerulean Marinite, and Lord Benjamin the Wise. Opening hand for Daethstar looks to be Murder, Vampiric Kiss, Arcane Shield, Verdict of the Ancient Kings, a Arcane Focus. Oh wait, no, it looks like a previous hand. Looks like we're having some issues with the other side of the board. So just as a reminder for players, if you're watching the stream, you're able to see both players' hands. Obviously, the competitors can't see that, but thanks to Hexovision, you guys are able to see both sides of the board and get a little more feel for how this match is going to turn out.
Well, since we do have Bosmopar's hand, we might as well break it down. I love this. The first hand, not great, but a critical mulligan into something that's kind of dreamier. An early Jankbot, we saw how powerful that was last game, or at least the threat of it was very powerful. And he has draw built in to his opening hand, something he didn't have last game. So a Cerulean Marinite and Lord Benjamin, both of these things together are very promising.
All right, so it looks like our tournament vision is turned back on. We are able to see Daethstar's opening hand. It is double Sapphire Shard, Arcane Shield, Cerulean Mentalist, a Fenteo, the Brood Priest, and a Vampire Princess.
Looks like one mulligan. It's still a risky hand. No blood is no bueno.
Down to 5 for Daethstar. Blood Shard, Shard of Cunning, 2 Cerulean Mentalist, and a Giant Corpsefly. Looks like Bosmopar will play that Shard of Purpose for a Diamond Threshold.
I think this next hand is actually okay. You will need a third resource to let Daethstar get off the ground, but Cerulean Mentalists have a lot of card draw built into them.
Draw for Daethstar is a kill. Will play a shard. Looks like he's going to go for a Sapphire Threshold. Pass the turn over to Bosmopar. His draw is a Diamond Shard. Plays out a Sapphire. Now at 2 resources, single Diamond, single Sapphire, and Cerulean Mirror Knight joins the field for Bosmopar.
That's it. That's big. He has the 4th shard. Jankbot is online.
Draw for Daethstar is a Verdict of the Ancient Kings. Will play a Blood Shard. Now at double 2 resources, single Sapphire, single Blood. Passes over to Bosmopar. His draw is a Ruby Shard. We go to attack. This is going to be a little pling of damage for Bosmopar. That'll take Daethstar down to 17 health, and we see Lord Benjamin the Wise played for Bosmopar as well as a Ruby Shard.
Daethstar's got to be hoping for that 3rd shard. Does he get it?
He does indeed. Finds a 3rd resource. It's a Blood Shard. Will play it. Has access to kill. We'll see if that is going to be what he uses. Looks like he is. He's going to target Lord Benjamin the Wise, so it's going to go to the crypt.
Interesting. Must be really afraid of that fetch ability. If Lord Benjamin hits, he gets to search the top 3 cards and take a human.
Draw for Bosmopar is a Diamond Shard. Plays it. We go to attack phase. Cerulean Mirror Knight swinging in again. This is going to be for 1 point of damage, taking Daethstar down to 16. And Jankbot is now online.
And we know what's in Daethstar's hand. We know that Jankbot is going to get to swing in at least once.
Blood Shard is played for Daethstar, now at 4 resources. We see the Cerulean Mentalist played for Daethstar, and he's going to shift over to Bosmopar, who draws a Blessing the Fallen, plays out a Sapphire Shard, now at 5 resources. Blessing the Fallen is played.
I think this game is going to be determined right here. What will Jankbot find?
Jankbot finds a Solitary Exile, Royal Valkyr, and Time Ripple.
Wow, okay, so now he's got to find targets for all of these. If he ripples the Mentalist, he's going to need to Solitary Exile something else. That's kind of tricky.
I would maybe consider the Cerulean Mirror Knight, or maybe even the Blessing the Fallen. I don't know.
I like Blessing.
Me too.
If you bounce back the Mirror Knight, then you hurt your own Inspire. If you bounce back the Blessing, it doesn't really hurt anything except you need to cast it again.
Royal Valkyr is played. It's going to do 3 damage, taking Daethstar down to 13. Now Solitary Exile in play will target the Cerulean Mentalist.
That's a pretty impressive board. Daethstar needs Extinction, and he needs it now. Another swing by Jankbot might spell the end.
Daethstar down to 8 health after Jankbot connects. Draw for Daethstar is a Arcane Shield. Will play out a Cerulean Mentalist. And still only has 1 resource open as he passes the Bosmopar.
Well, Daethstar can survive once more if he decides to block with the Cerulean Mentalist.
Draw for Bosmopar is Lord Adam the Courageous. And we are going to go to attack. We see Jankbot and Royal Valkyr swinging in. Ruby Shard, Time Ripple, and Shard of Purpose for the Jankbot attack.
I think that's it.
That is going to do it. Time Ripple will target the Cerulean Mentalist. No way to block. And Bosmopar with exactly 8 damage is going to take game number 2 with style and with that Jankbot. So now this matchup is tied 1-1. Let's take a look at reserves for Daethstar. Again, we talked about this earlier. Inquisition might be an option. What a crazy match with that second game. Dino, is there anything else that Daethstar could be doing?
Hoping that Bosmopar doesn't get another Jankbot in his opening hand. Like, what are the odds? Twice in a row. The first one didn't pan out because Bosmopar didn't get a 4th shard. But, oh, this game was a very different story. Daethstar is going to want Inquisition, remove those threats early, and it'll stall Bosmopar pretty hard. If it gets to the late game, Subtle Striker might be okay to prevent Rutherford Banks from bringing back something important. If, for example, a Jankbot gets on the board, it won't be able to come back. That's something.
So we're going on to game number 3. Winner takes all. We'll take a look at opening hands for both players. Daethstar with a Blood Shard, Sapphire Shard, Shard of Cunning, which he'll play for a Blood Threshold, kill Arcane Shield, Vampire King, and Zentos Inquisitor. Opening hand for Bosmopar, draws a Protectorate Clergyman, plays a Diamond Shard, still has Repel, Solitary Exile, 2 Lord Benjamin the Wilds, Royal Herald, and a Diamond Shard as we shift over to Daethstar. His draw is a Cerulean Mentalist, plays out a resource sitting at 2.
I like Bospar's opening hand. It's, again, a little bit riskier, not amazing threats, but he has fetch and he has a bunch of early drops.
Ruby Shard has played Royal Herald on the field for Bosmopar. We'll go for that Sapphire Threshold, and he'll pass over to Daethstar.
I think what's really critical is going to be the sequencing of Daethstar's plays. If he gets something out and is able to hold the Arcane Shield up, he might be able to blow out Bosmopar when he tries to use either a Solitary Exile or Repel.
Cerulean Mentalist has played Daethstar, passes to Bosmopar. His draw is a Time Ripple. We'll play a Lord Benjamin the Wise. No attack. And we'll focus back to Daethstar. His draw is a second Cerulean Mentalist. Plays out a Shard of Cunning. We'll see for what threshold.
It's pretty good. Last game we saw Daethstar really hating on Lord Benjamin. We'll see if he does the same thing this game.
He was looking at kill. He does have 3 open resources. Decides to use that for his second Cerulean Mentalist. And he'll go ahead and pass the turn. Draw for Bosmopar is a Shard of Conquest. And we go to attack phase. Lord Benjamin, the Wise, swinging in. This will be for a point of damage. Daethstar down to 17 health. And Vanguard of Gawain is revealed.
Being able to draw troops every time you connect with Lord Benjamin is why he is so terrifying.
So it looks like Bosmopar has a couple options, decides to go with the Vanguard of Gawain, so 3/2 Swift Striker on the field for Bosmopar as he passes the turn. Draw for Daethstar is a second Zentos Inquisitor.
I like the play of the Vanguard of Gawain. Some people might be tempted to play Protectorate Clergyman because it has an Inspire effect, but playing the Vanguard of Gawain is basically saying, I don't want you, Daethstar, to draw cards with your inspired Cerulean Mentalist.
Zentos Inquisitor is the play for Daethstar, targeting Lord Benjamin the Wise.
We'll see if Bosmopar responds back with Solitary Exile. There is a window now. Daethstar has no resources open. This means the Arcane Shield is not going to save him.
So we go to attack for Daethstar. We'll see if he wants to send anything in. Does not. We'll pass the turn. Draw for Bosmopar is a Diamond Shard. Plays it now at 5 resources.
So there are a couple of lines he could pursue. Bosmopar could toss down the Clergyman to start inspiring further troops, or he could toss down Lord Benjamin and try to replace his draw effect.
He does indeed play the Protectorate Clergyman and Lord Benjamin the Wise. Since it's unique, Lord Benjamin will replace the one on the field. Daethstar will play a Sapphire Shard now at 5 resources and has quite a bit of options here.
He needs 6 before he can play the Vampire King and also keep the shield up. So the question is he okay with maybe losing a Zentos Inquisitor? Does he want to kill a major threat? I see a strong argument for getting rid of Lord Benjamin.
Lord Benjamin would definitely help Bosmopar gain some gas by drawing troops from his deck. And Daethstar knows that. So Daethstar going to attack phase.
Swinging in with a Swift Striker on Bosmopar's board doesn't seem wise. The Vanguard can take out anything that Daethstar can deal with.
We shift over to Bosmopar. Draw for him is a Shard of Innovation. We go to attack. We see Lord Benjamin coming in. Let's see if Daethstar wants to respond. And he does. So kill on Lord Benjamin the Wise. We'll send him. No, he won't. Looks like Bosmopar is going to activate the Time Ripple to save his Lord Benjamin the Wise.
Clever play by Bosmopar. Not only does it save Lord Benjamin, but also makes him a 3-drop. Normally a bad thing. It will inspire Lord Benjamin when he comes back down.
So Lord Benjamin is replayed by Bosmopar back onto the board. Shard of Innovation played. He'll be able to choose between Ruby and Sapphire. Chooses Sapphire Threshold, and that will end Bosmopar's turn.
I think for Daethstar to get back in this game, he's going to need a resource or something so that he can get his other drops out safely.
A top deck kill for Daethstar will finally put Lord Benjamin the Wise into the crypt.
Fool me once, shame on you. It's not going to happen again.
So Daethstar now going to attack. We'll see if he decides to swing in. Does not. And we'll go over to Bosmopar. His draw is Lord Adam the Powerful.
Lord Adam would be a 5/5 if Bosmopar decides to toss that down on the field, and it would have Steadfast.
Solitary Exile, and except is played now for Bosmopar. He's going to target that Zentos Inquisitor. Let's see if it hits, and it does. So it will go to the Void. We're going to attack. Bosmopar electing not to swing. And we shift focus back over to Daethstar. His draw is a Blood Shard. Now it's 6 resources.
There it is. This is what Daethstar's been waiting for.
Vampire King is played. 2 open resources left for Arcane Shield. And that's definitely a good spot for him. He's going to sacrifice one of his Cerulean Mentalists with his Benoshi ability and place that onto the Vampire King. And now you see Arcane Shield placed onto the Vampire King. It now has Spell Shield.
So that means that Bosmopar will not be able to save himself with Repel.
Draw for Bosmopar is a Soul Marble. Lord Adam the Powerful is played as well as Soul Marble, trying to get that troop out of his hand, and does. And now we go to the end of turn for Bosmopar. He's 1 charge away from activating his champion ability. Daethstar's draw is a Cerulean Mirror Knight.
And remember that Vampire King has been inspired by 2 Cerulean Mentalists. Every time he swings in, Daethstar will get to draw 2 cards.
5 damage rocks Bosmopar, takes him down to 18 health. Daethstar back up to 22 health. Plays a Sapphire Shard, Cerulean Mirror Knight on the board for Daethstar, as well as a Zentos Inquisitor.
This is looking pretty rough on Bosmopar's side. He needs a little bit more gas if he wants to overcome this major threat.
Zentos Inquisitor targets Lord Adam the Powerful now to 2 attack. Draw for Bosmopar is a second Lord Adam the Powerful.
Unfortunately, Lord Adam is unique. So if Bosmopar plays his second Lord Adam, the first one will go to the crypt.
Indeed, he plays the Lord Adam the Powerful, replacing the one on the field. And he will pass over to Daethstar. Draw for Daethstar is a Blood Shard. Sitting with a Blood and Sapphire in hand, plays a Sapphire Shard at 8 resources.
It was really exciting to see the Arcane Shield tech being put to good use. It's clever. I like it.
Go to attack. We see the Vampire King and the Zentos Inquisitor inbound to Bosmopar, so that's 8 damage. We'll see how Bosmopar elects to block. Decides to take it all, goes to 10 health. Daethstar drawing an Arcane Focus, Fantail the Brood Priest, and a Cerulean Mirror Knight will Arcane Focus.
At this point, the only thing that can hurt Daethstar are some kind of board sweeper, Purge, for example. And so Daethstar is probably looking as fast as he can for an interrupt.
Draw for Daethstar is a kill. Cerulean Mirror Knight is the play. Bosmopar putting 2 counters on his Soul Marble.
For Bosmopar, he's got a 2-turn clock. He's got to find either a flyer to start blocking the Vampire King, or he can start being aggressive with his current board and try to force damage to start racing Daethstar in this damage race.
Looks like Daethstar is thinking about activating kill, and he does. Targets Lord Adam the Powerful, and he will go to the crypt. Bosmopar with a Royal Herald, Vanguard of Egwene, and Protectorate Clergyman on the board. Repel in hand. Daethstar going to activate his champion ability. That is a 7/8 Vampire King. Draw for Bosmopar is a Phoenix Guard Trainer.
It's huge. It's huge. The Phoenix Guard Trainer is one piece of the puzzle. Bosmopar is at 10, but still needs 2 hits of the Vampire King to say GG.
Draw 4 Daethstar is a Vampire King. So we're going to go to attack. Looks like Bosmopar, or looks like Daethstar is going to activate his champion ability to power up his Vampire King to a 9/10 Spell Shield Vampire King. This is going to bring Bosmopar down to 1, Daethstar up to 36 health.
It's monstrous. That's disgusting. It's huge.
Daethstar drawing cards off the attack from the Vampire King and has plenty of options. He says, what's better than 1 Vampire King? How about a second Vampire King? He's going to pass it over to Bosmopar, but before he does, Bosmopar going to put 3 more counters onto the Soul Marble. It's now at 5. Draw for Bosmopar is a Sapphire Shard. And unfortunately for Bosmopar, that's not probably what he was looking for. He is going to activate his champion ability to select a troop from his crypt, put it into play.
I was going to say, it's better than something else. If he got an action, he would have been done for. But this shard will allow him to use Rutherford Banks to bring back a troop. It will be inspired. And so we're looking at a very big flyer in the air.
6/6, Lord Adam the Powerful with flying and steadfast for Bosmopar. As we pass the turn to Daethstar, his draw. It's a Vampire King, his 3rd Vampire King.
At least it wasn't a kill. A kill would be GG this turn. Right now, as things stand, Bosmopar gets 1 more turn.
The 2nd Vampire King does not have Spell Shield, so will be a target for that repel. Zentos Inquisitor played for Daethstar, going to target Lord Adam the Powerful. Bosmopar is going to go ahead and activate Soul Marble for Soul Armaments, which means his troops are going to have Spell Shield.
That's really critical because it allows him to dodge that minus attack effect from the Zentos Inquisitor.
So attack by Daethstar, we see both Vampire Kings coming in, a repel immediately in response to the unspell shielded Vampire King.
This card advantage is really becoming a problem for Bosmopar. He's got to find troops every turn just from a top deck.
Bosmopar uses Lord Adam to block that Vampire King. Daethstar is at 45 health. Bosmopar clinging on to 1 health.
Oh.
And draw for Bosmopar is a repel. He is doing everything he can now. He's just going to swing in with everything he has. And Daethstar could just easily take this damage and go on to his turn. He's going to block the Royal Herald with the Zentos Inquisitor. Daethstar is going to take damage and go down to 30 health.
Still seems pretty healthy to me, Snake.
Draws a bunch of cards, and we're going to swift over to Daethstar. And unfortunately for Bosmopar, that spell shielded Vampire King, even if there wasn't that 2nd Vampire King, is going to go in and take Bosmopar out. Arcane Focus is played by Daethstar, wants to draw some more options. And we see the attack with both Vampire Kings. Bosmopar will respond in kind with a repel and Arcane Shield on the Vampire King.
Of course.
Safe. So 12 damage, and this is going to do it. Daethstar is going to take down Bosmopar. This is a crazy turn of events because this is Bosmopar's first loss, and Daethstar with that win against Jank Umbrant. What a great match.
Oh, yes. I was on my edge of my seat the entire time. Jank Umbrant is always delicious, but I think what really carried this game for me was clever use of that Arcane Shield. I love seeing interesting, innovative tech, and I think Daethstar brought that here tonight.
Yeah, Daethstar, I mean, Jank Umbrant had its time to shine last week when Bosmopar took Satalution down. He had some glimmers of hope, with that deck. But in the end, Daethstar with that deck was able to go through. And again, I agree with you. Arcane Shield definitely was MVP for Daethstar. And again, this really shows that, people are looking at other cards and trying to find other ways to have fun. And, that Vampire King was just ridiculous, Dino. I mean, 9-10 life draining Vampire King is nothing to scoff at.
Yeah, especially if you can make sure it stays around turn after turn. And that draw was devastating.
Yeah. Having a handful of cards and plenty of resources to cast those cards definitely will always put you in an advantage. And again, congratulations to Daethstar, who took that matchup 2-1 against our Gladiator Bosmopar, and that will be his first loss of the Casting Colosseum. We're going to head on down to Alucard, who's ready to interview Bosmopar after that loss.
Well, first game, just not drawing the shards I needed till later on. But I had to mulligan most of the games. Momentum for the first one. I really liked that first hand I had the 2 jank bots, but didn't have enough shards. Just need those shards to get the momentum. The third game for that,
Alucard, I think you might be muted. They can't hear you. They said.
I had for that was Mass Polymorph Dingler, which I did not get, or I didn't even have enough resources for it, even if I drew it.
Gotcha. So yeah, I mean, you managed to bring it back in game 2 with a really excellent jank bot win. I mean, it's got to feel good when you're playing jank bot and getting all sorts of removal off the top of your deck that's really just slowing your opponent down. And I mean, when you're in the zone, that deck really works. Like, what drove you to build this kind of deck that really excels when you get that jank bot out? And how do you deal with situations when you don't have it in play?
What drew me to jank bot is the randomness it has, where like the RNG that goes on with it. Because it's always fun when you don't know what's going to happen next.
Mm-hmm. And in game 3, we didn't get to see the power of the jank bot, but you did bring a lot of strong troops there on the board. We saw Lord Benjamin doing some work finding a Vanguard of Gawain there. We saw Lord Adam the Powerful. Didn't quite find Lord Alexander the Courageous, but what kind of things do you need to be focusing on when you don't have Jankbot on the board?
Well, I don't have Jankbot. That's why the Zero Fate's in there with the direct damage and life drain.
Mm-hmm.
Having that into a combo of either with the Lord Adams doing damage or the Heroes of Adamath. If I get a good combo going, or good amount of humans with that, that's a ton of damage right there.
Yep.
If not, this Inspires will help me win there, if not.
So are you thinking about bringing this deck to and maybe tweaking it a little bit and bringing it out for the Hextravaganza tournament this weekend, or are you thinking maybe you'll come up with another brew? You're known to play a variety of different decks. How are you feeling this weekend?
I'm thinking I might bring the Jankbot, maybe do a different variety of it, or tweak this a bit. So I have to figure out what to run.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining me here for this interview. We're going to toss it back up to Snake and Dinotropia.
Thanks, Alucard. Great interview. The mighty Bosmopar has fallen, and we are going to get ready for our third and final match of the Casting Colosseum. I'm definitely enjoying tonight's event, though, for sure.